Hello, welcome back to my channel where today I'll be re-dyeing my hair because it's getting very pastel and I'm not a huge fan of it. But you'll see throughout this video that I kind of just wish I left it how it was because the colour just doesn't work out how it was meant to. And that probably happened because I was quite hungover when I was doing this, but I'm definitely getting ahead of myself on that, so we're going to go straight into cutting it. To cut the sides of my hair, I always use these clippers with the same guard on them. The guard just says 4 on it, I'm not quite sure how long it is. It did used to say the length on it, but it's just been rubbed off over time. I think these clippers are like 20 years old, they're my dad's old ones. They still work really well though, they're just a little bit annoying because sometimes they shut off. But other than that, they are perfectly good clippers. And I don't really see myself replacing them anytime soon, because again, I think they do actually work quite well. They, however, don't really go around my ears very well, so I do use scissors for that bit. But for the most part, they do a really good job at getting the sides all the way down. I don't use it on the top of my head. I feel like I could have with the longer guards, but I just don't trust myself to. So I only use it on the sides. To cut the top of my head, I kind of just hack at it with scissors. There is no professional way about this in the slightest. I just kind of look at my hair and kind of attempt to get it kind of how I like it. I like it kind of shorter on the sides, a bit longer on the top, and then a lot longer on the back. I'm trying to grow a rat tail. So the main thing that I do when I cut my hair is trying to avoid that because I really don't want to accidentally cut it and ruin all my hard work. Because I did accidentally cut it at one point and I had to start again, and I really do not want to do that again. For the hair dye, I'm going to be using my new favourite brand of hair dye, which is Bleach London. I used this brand when I originally dyed this hair colour, and it came out really well. I was really pleased with it. But you'll see that this time it didn't really quite go to plan, mainly because I used them in a slightly different way. But before we start talking about that, I'm going to talk about what I did for the hair. I wanted the ends to be a brighter pink, just because I really like the look of that. I kind of like the fire look to it, and I really like my rat tail being very obviously pink, while the rest of my hair is quite orange. So I first went in with pink on the ends, and I let it set for about 5 minutes, just to make sure all the colour was in there and it wasn't going to move when I put the orange over the top. Then I mixed up a batch of orange. For this I used the pink, the yellow and a little bit of a green just to neutralise it slightly and make it a little bit more natural. I felt like I had to neutralise it just because I have work and I don't know how they'd feel about me having really bright hair. They don't tend to mind my hair, they've never actually mentioned it, but I don't want to push it too far, so I do neutralise my colours now. And with the orange all mixed up, I kind of just slapped it onto my head. I wasn't really doing this in a professional manner. Most of the time, I would kind of take a section, pull it forward, and then do the section behind it. I did it for the front, but I didn't do it for the back, just because I knew I was doing it one colour, so I didn't really feel the need to do that. And also, the colour underneath is already orange, so it doesn't need to be perfect. And also, as you've probably guessed from the thumbnail of this, it didn't fully dye my hair. I think this is partially my fault because usually I would leave my hair dye in for a couple of hours, but this time I really needed to go to bed because I had such a bad headache because I was very hungover. So I left it on for 45 minutes and the bottle says to leave it on for 30 minutes, so it should have dyed just fine in that time, but it just didn't. It doesn't stick to my hair in that amount of time apparently. I found my hair is a little bit difficult to dye. It doesn't really want to take the dye, especially if it has hair dye underneath it and not bleach underneath it. But I do feel like it should have worked a little bit better, especially as these colours have worked so well before. The pink especially, I absolutely adore. I think it's an amazing colour pink. It is one of my favourite pink hair dyes I've ever used. But this time around it just wasn't playing with me. Sometimes it just happens with hair. Hair is kind of fickle in that way. I just wish it would have gone the colour that it looked like it was going to go when I had it in the bowl, because the colour in the bowl and when it was originally on my head I absolutely loved. It was definitely a darker orange for me, but I feel like it was going to really suit me, and then it went a little bit more pastel. Especially as I was doing this to get rid of the pastel, it was really annoying that when I washed it out it was still very pastel. At the time it felt like it hadn't done anything at all. Looking back at the footage I can see that it did dye it slightly, but nowhere near enough in my opinion. I just really wanted a nice bright hair colour, especially with the sides being black. I wanted it to be really bright, but it just didn't happen today. Oh well, it will happen next time I hope. Oh, and I also dyed the sides just because the ends of my hair are still a little bit orangey, so I just wanted to make sure that that colour would match the top of my hair, because otherwise I feel like it would look a little bit mismatched. So the difference isn't as big as I was hoping it was going to be, but I am still quite happy with how it turned out. I feel like the back of my hair is looking so much better than it used to recently. I don't know what I've really been doing differently apart from growing it out. I feel like maybe I just didn't suit having short hair back there, because it looks so much better nowadays. And I'm also just getting better at cutting it. I know there's a bit underneath that I keep missing, but I also feel like that makes the back of my head look a little bit less flat, so maybe I'll just leave it. I think it looks absolutely fine, and I also just don't like trying to do the double mirror thing, trying to get the back of my head done. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like, comment down below what else you'd like me to do. I usually do makeup and cosplay stuff on this channel. While you're down there, please also subscribe to my channel as I post new video every single Thursday, and I'd love to see you again. But until then, bye!